A very good evening and welcome to The Bottom Line, a wrap of some of your top business news stories of the day. My name is Nzinga Qunta and we begin as usual with your number of the day. Today that number is 32,248. That, according to the Youth Employment Service, is the number of job opportunities that have been created for young people. The Youth Employment Service is a collaboration between labour, civil society, business and government, in which businesses create one-year paid positions for people aged between 18 and 35, receiving a minimum stipend of 3,500 Rand a month. South Africa has an unemployment rate of 29.1% and youth unemployment sits at about 40.1%, or 8 million people, according to Statistics South Africa's quarterly labour force survey in the fourth quarter of 2019. So I'm joined in studio by Marc Ashton. He's the founder of Decusatio. He believes that although South Africa's unemployment and economy is a challenge, there are reasons to celebrate. Marc, thanks so much for your time on SABC News. You've written an article where you call for an end to the kind of pessimism that surrounds the South African economy.
Yeah, I think it's just become so pervasive. I mean, I just look at talking to other business people and there's often this idea that nothing's working anymore in South Africa. There's no good stories to share. And it was quite, you know, for me, I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, different types of businesses, different industries, and there's innovation happening all around us. You know, we look in the agri sector, everyone's saying that nothing's going to work in that sector, and yet it's a job-creating sector last year. I've seen fintech entrepreneurs, legal tech entrepreneurs, there's so much happening, and I just feel that this negativity has become so pervasive, and it's time to actually start pushing back against it and say that there are actually some good news stories to celebrate in South Africa.
You've used that example of the Youth Employment Service and over 30,000 people who've had job opportunities given to them. But when you look at that number, I know that the amount of money that they've earned is also quite high, but that's when you put that against 8 million young people who are unemployed, that doesn't seem like a very big dent.
So I think there's got to be seen in the context of what the various instruments are out there. So the Youth Employment Service is a not-for-profit company, so I think there's often a perception that is run on a for-profit basis, a not-for-profit organisation. It receives no government funding, no support. It effectively has to generate income from creating these work experiences for South African youth. If you look at that number that you've quoted there, that's 1.4 billion rands worth of youth salaries. That's 32,000 youth that have never had an opportunity to get their foot in the door. And remember, the multiplier effect of that is, and I'll give you a very good example, one of the youth that works in our consulting business is a Yes Youth. He has a BCom accounting degree. He has economics qualifications from a business school here, plus a business management certificate. He's been sitting at home for the last 4 years, unable to break into the workforce. Now suddenly he's got 4 or 5 months work experience. His social capital is improved. He's got the opportunity to meet new people, and he's already looking and saying, well, how can he go and get a foot in the next position from a finance position? So I think that there's a lot. You forget that the access to that first job is such a critical part of the employment journey.
You've also mentioned the agriculture sector. Let's talk about the numbers there and why you think there are opportunities there.
So I mean, I think, you know, we often hear all this talk about expropriation without compensation. Nobody's going to invest in the sector. You know, the IRR is on a very intense campaign at the moment to say that even if you lose your property, you're still going to owe the banks. You know, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation that's being put out into the market at the moment. And yet, if you look at the actual hard numbers out of the Court of Labour statistics, 36,000 new jobs were created in the agri sector. Now, you can't tell me that there's nothing good happening in the agri sector. You look at the blueberry industry in South Africa, cannabis is another huge one where there's a lot of discussions around building new industries, whether it's supply, distribution, manufacturing, medicinal, etc. So there's a lot of opportunity being created there. But we just need to think a little bit differently about our traditional agri methods and the types of industries that we're kind of looking at and saying what's being disrupted at the moment.
There's also, from the opportunities that you've spoken about and from the people who are unemployed at the moment, my apologies, there's also a look at trying to invest better and trying to get into spaces perhaps that were previously closed. Easy Equities is quite a good example of that you've mentioned, of how people are now starting to invest perhaps more than before.
So, I mean, I really enjoy and I have a lot of respect for Charles Savage, who started Easy Equities. I mean, he came in for a lot of criticism when he tried to launch that business in South Africa. You know, why should traditional industries be disrupted? Why can't the large asset managers and large stockbrokers just continue to run business as usual? And there were people saying, well, why does an ordinary retail investor need to get into the market? You know, Charles celebrated, I think it was in January, 250,000 retail investors now participate in that platform. That's 250,000 people who can go and buy shares in JSE listed companies. I think they've got property coming up now. And, you know, that number is significant because if you took all the stockbrokers before that, there were only 200,000, excluding easy equities, there were only 200,000 active investors using traditional stockbroking accounts. Everyone else goes through traditional retirement products, etc. So Charles has effectively doubled the size of the potential client base. And, you know, Charles always said to me once, there's this thing, momentum is one of the most powerful forces out there. And when you get a little bit of positive momentum, it becomes a mission, something that people rally around. And that's why I think Charles has done so well with easy equities.
Mm-hmm. How much does perception of South Africa and its economy actually move tangibly anything? Adrian Gore at Davos in 2019, I think, spoke up South Africa so much and spoke about how South Africans in particular talk down their country and the effects that may have and the very good things that are there. But I want to know, how do you balance what you're doing and what he's spoken about with also accepting the realities that there are many challenges in South Africa and we are in trouble, especially financially?
Absolutely. So I'm a realist. I come out of a world of financial journalism. I lived through the global financial crisis. I've lived through the last 10 years on the stock exchange where things haven't really gone our way. And what I've seen, though, is just this pervasive negativity in terms of everything that's being built. All this innovation out there. I mean, I spent some time at the Innovation Hub there in Pretoria. There are companies there that are going and winning massive export contracts. We never hear them. We never celebrate them. And I think the point that I was trying to make is that, yes, there are a lot of things that are wrong with the economy. There are many things that are structurally wrong. Vertical and horizontal integration of supply chains still makes it very difficult for small businesses to actually break into these bigger corporates. But the reality is we've got an opportunity to change things, whether it's cannabis, whether it's easy equities. Traditional industries are being disrupted. We're able to bring in new people, new innovation, and the speed of change that's happening in South Africa can actually be a good thing. You look at the power issues that we're facing at the moment. We can't continue with the power setup that we have. So people now have to go and say, well, how can we build solar, wind, energy, energy, water solutions, and say, well, what can we do differently? And to me, there's a cool factor to that. I think it's nice just to be able to see businesses saying, let's do something tangible, let's stop doing things the way we are. Definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And I think we just can't let this negativity constantly eat into what we do. It's a Monday morning. We should be able to wake up and say, let's go and look for an opportunity. There are opportunities all around us. We just need to embrace them.
Marc Ashton, founder of Decusatio, joining me in studio today. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News this evening. President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement of the establishment of a sovereign wealth fund has sparked debate among economists. The president gave no detail on the fund, and many are wondering, where is the money going to come from?
We have decided to establish a sovereign wealth fund as a means to preserve and grow the national endowment of our nation, giving practical meaning to the injunction that the people shall share in the country's wealth.
A sovereign wealth fund is a government